So, hi everybody. This is Anne
Hello.
Marie, Ball
Hey,
Girl Will
hey.
Travel, and today I'm talking about a very fun, juicy subject, which is what's the skinny on dating during solo travel and while living abroad. And I wanted to talk about this from the perspective of those of us who are, fly, sexy, and over 40. So I have two
Yes.
of my friends on who are going to join this conversation with me and talk a little bit about this subject. Both of them are very well traveled women who solo travel regularly and live abroad. And so we will all talk about our experience in this area, and we are well represented here. We've got the over 40 and over, we got the 50 and over, we got the 60 and over. We doing it, and you can't tell who is who. I know you can't. So that's the thing.
Oh, I just gave
Because
myself away.
that good black don't crack, as I always say. So you guys introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to get into it.
Toni, you go ahead.
Oh. I was waiting for you. Hey, everybody. I'm Toni Denise, and I retired in October of 2020 and did something that I started many years ago, and that was traveling. And I retired, decided I was going to move to Mexico, and moved to Mexico I'm not ashamed to say, at 63. And the reason I say that is because people remind me that I was that age. And I just, it was something I wanted to do, but I realized that it took something that a lot of 63-year-olds won't do. So anyways, so I retired, moved to Mexico, enjoying myself and discovering new things all the time. I'm in the process of penning a book that is getting written very slowly because I'm doing some other things. I'm trying to get in a position where I'm more focused on that. But yeah, Anne and I met in Merida, almost 2 years ago. And I'm glad to be here and talk about this juicy subject. Yes, indeed. So that's it for me.
Well, I'm Lena. I am originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, currently living in Playa del Carmen, Mexico.
That's right. I forgot.
And probably will be making a move at the end of this year to Guadalajara in search of a bigger city. I am a travel consultant. I own my own business called Sweet Bean Travels, where I plan vacations for people. I provide hosted group trips, and I plan and manage larger group trips for 8 or more people. And I have a few corporate clients. So people always want to know, how do you make your bread and butter when you're living abroad? So that's what I do. Mexico, people often ask why I came to Mexico. And the honest to God truth is that when the stars aligned for me to be able to leave the United States, it happened to be during COVID. So Mexico was one of the few places that was still open during that time. And it turns out that I actually really love being here. So we're going to see what we can see. One of these days, I think I'm going to make my way back to Brazil, though. That's one of my favorite places in the world. So we'll see. That's my short story.
All right. And, everyone knows me. I'm Anne Marie. I moved to Mexico last year, and I live in San Miguel de Allende. And I travel as often as I can. I've kind of made a pact with myself this year to travel somewhere different every 3 months. So that is my move, and my next trip's coming up soon, where I'll be visiting 4 different places. So I'm very big on travel. I believe that solo travel is one of the best things you can do for self-care, at least for me. And so being somewhere where I get to meet new people, experience new things, eat great food, because I do love good food, is one of my favorite things, as well as we get into it, meeting different and interesting men. So one of my favorite things to do, and I feel like it's part of the whole solo travel experience for me and living abroad, is dating, right? And in my opinion, it don't make no sense to visit a country and not sample the local way, fare, what I tell people. I don't see the point.
Hey, that
like,
sounds good to me.
I live in Mexico and people are like, what's the expats like? I'm like, what am I dating an expat for? I do that when I'm in America.
Right.
I didn't come here to date expat. Right. And I also am not looking for a husband. So I got to give context. I'm not interested in getting married. I'm not looking for a husband. The baby making days are over. So I feel like, why not just go out and enjoy people's company and have fun? And if it, just remains friends, it's friends. And if it turns romantic, it's fine too. But I just, to me, dating is just something that's fun, not something that I expect to be like some big love affair every time I meet somebody.
Right.
So it makes it easier for me.
Totally agree.
So I want to ask each of you, first of all, have you dated while on solo travel and living abroad? And what's the coolest thing about it?
For me, yes. The first question is yes, I have dated. And the coolest thing, without a doubt, for me is that I am not invisible here at all. I get approached by older men. I get approached by some boy toys, and I enjoy that, because when I was in the States, without like really trying to date, like going online and making an effort and all that, if I'm just walking down the street, I don't get noticed. I've even tested that, like walking into a store and seeing men, young or old, and see if they acknowledge, and they don't. The Black men, and that was my experience. Every now and then somebody might. I can't say nobody, was interested in me just walking on the street, but here it's really obvious for me. Like, I'll be walking, and in fact, he saw me walking to the beach one day, and he kept looking, and I kept looking, and the next thing I know, we exchanged numbers through Google Translate, because he couldn't speak a word of English. But so that's really exciting and interesting for me, that I'm not invisible here, and that it's just unviable as a dating, material here. I like that.
Well, I would say, okay, so living in Playa specifically is a tourist town. So there's an opportunity to date people from all over the world. I've dated an Italian man, I've dated a Mexican man. I have gone on a few dates with some Americans, but not necessarily Black American men. And it's just really fun. Number one, you have an opportunity to learn a new language, right? So the Italian was always teaching me Italian. The Mexican, I had an opportunity to work on my Spanish. But I've been on some of the best dates I've ever experienced.
Wow.
And the type of dating that I truly enjoy, like real wining and dining. There's just a different kind of effort that I experience dating here. So for example, the Italian guy, we would start off with a cocktail at one place and then go to another place for dinner, and then end our date at the beach. Just being romantic.
Italian men know how to wine and dine, but I'm gonna talk about that in a minute. All over the world, not just in Mexico, all over the world.
But
they got to figure it out.
Just there's a level of romance that I experienced that I did not always experience in the US. So that's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, well, I have not been out on as many dates in Mexico, even though that is all of a sudden changing very rapidly, because I've been asked out like several in the last 24 hours to figure out my schedule for this weekend. But as I travel solo, I make it a point to have dates if I can, because I feel like it enhances my experience of the city or the town or the country that I'm in. So if I can, I try to do it. And I just had one of the best dates ever in Palermo, Italy, last fall in September. And it was, like I said, Italian men. And there wasn't a romantic connection per se, for me anyway, but the date was great. The food was amazing. It was clear that he put thought into it. You know what I'm saying? And I find that Italian men, a lot of them are playboys, but they know how to wine and dine, among other things. And so I'm here for it and I appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I appreciate it.
Hey, I'm not
And
mad at you.
I'm heading to Portugal in a bit, and I already have a date or two lined up.
Are you using Tinder, or what do you want?
Yeah, I
A
use
match
Tinder.
or?
So what I do is Tinder has a feature where you can change your location. You can add different locations. So usually if I know I'm going somewhere in a week or a couple weeks, I'll change my location to that place so that I can start talking to people who are there. And I tell them I'm coming for a visit. What you trying to show me, basically. And you will go out on dates, and I'll talk to them and I'll ask questions and I'll get to know them, chatting with them. And sometimes I decide, oh, I don't like this guy. And then other times I met this one guy, I've been talking to him for over a year. He lives in Portugal. He lives in Portugal part-time in Italy. So we didn't get to connect in Italy because he left a couple weeks before I got there to go back to Portugal. So we're actually going to meet up in Portugal. So, you know, and you can learn interesting things about people. You can be friends with people. It doesn't have to turn into something
exactly
romantic.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt that he's handsome and he speaks several languages, but he's just been really a gentleman and really cool and funny. And so we're going to try to connect when I'm in Lisbon. I think that, I mean, it's a great way to meet people. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit about being, you know, safe in a bit, but I think you have to use common sense just like you would anywhere. But that's what I do, because I think it's a great way to learn about great places to eat that you wouldn't know about. Like the place I went to Palermo, I don't think I would have found that without a local person. And have experiences. I mean, and then by the end of the evening, the owner who owned the restaurant was bringing dessert, and you know, it was Bella. And I was like, okay, things are beautiful. I don't know what else he's saying, but that's okay.
Right.
Like bringing us, you know, all these things. So I had a really great experience, and I was only in Palermo for like 2 days, but I had an amazing date. An amazing date while I was there. And again, this was someone I had met online, and we had been talking for a while, but we had never met. I mean, over several years, because every time I was in Italy, for some reason, we wouldn't get to connect. And so we finally did connect on this time, and I had a wonderful time with him. Right. So I think you have to be open to it. I mean, Tinder can be a real cesspool, as I often say, and especially in the United States. But it's a different in other places. And I think you have to be clear about, you know, expectations and so on, and be careful. But you can have really great dates. I mean, I have friends who met their husbands on Tinder, but I'm not looking for a husband. And I make that very clear to people when they meet me. But you can have really great dates and make really great friends through Tinder in other countries. I've had pretty good experiences in Mexico as well using Tinder, right? So I think if you want to just have a way to meet people and learn about local things, and I'm very interested always in, you know, talking to local people. I don't want to be around a bunch of tourists, even when I travel. Going out on dates is a great way to do that, for me anyway. What would you say is a major challenge to dating solo and abroad as a Black woman over 40? Specifically in our age group. Or in general.
So I'm 40. I've never been married. I don't have any children. I am looking for a more serious long-term relationship. Even though I enjoy dating and I have a good time with it, I don't necessarily enter in with expectations, but I am looking to see if, you know, like where their head is. And I think living in this particular part of Mexico, that can present as a challenge because it is a tourist city and you have so many people dipping in and out.
Coming and going. Yeah, exactly.
It's transient. It's very transient.
It's very transient. And then I'm transient, right? Like when I'm traveling somewhere else, I'm not going to be there for long. So the potential to really establish something long term isn't always there. And one of the things that I realize about myself is that I don't mind a long distance relationship, but not everyone is open
Mm-hmm.
to the idea of that. I, I'm super flexible. I'm a digital nomad, so I can come to you. You know, and I need someone who can come to me.
Right.
And that's not necessarily always possible for someone in another country that I've traveled to. So I think that is the biggest challenge, one of the biggest challenges. Now, being a Black woman, the challenge there is that, you know, we come with a lot of ancestral trauma,
Yeah.
right? We come with all that stuff from the
Bagage,
US.
bagage, as they would say in France.
And I think many of us are still working through that. And it's important to me to have a partner who is empathetic,
Yeah.
you know, towards that. And I find that men from other countries just kind of sweep that under the rug. You know, the Italian and I were trying to have a conversation, and I was explaining some things to him, and he's like, "Oh, this isn't a
Just
problem in
brushed it off.
Italy." You know, and I'm like, and I said to him, I'd be curious if, what the response from a Black person in Italy would be, you know, to this
Always the problem.
conversation. Yes.
Yeah.
But a Mexican guy, you know, I told him very early on, I wanted to make it clear I identify as a Black American woman. Because I think sometimes for them it's a little confusing because of how I look.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so we had to have several conversations about that. His perception of Black America was very narrow, like he was super into hip hop and this and that. And I was just like, dude, that's not, Black people are not a monolith. That's not all what we're about. So those are some of the challenges that I've experienced being Black and dating.
Oh, no, there's no question those things are issues because most people's knowledge of Black people in America specifically is what they see on television and those images that they see on television, and Black women. So, you know, some of them may want to date you because you're a Black woman and they think they're going to get it easily because that's what they see on TV.
Yeah.
And then their understanding of race issues and so on may be non-existent.
Right.
You know, my sister's been married to Anglo-Latino for over 20 years now. And that's one of the things she told me she had to have conversations with because he didn't know. It was not even a lack of empathy, it was a lack of understanding. And his understanding actually grew through his being in a relationship with her. So now he's more strident about Black Lives Matter than she is. You can't say nothing crazy around this man. But in the beginning, it wasn't that way because he just didn't know. And so the question becomes how much bandwidth you are willing to put up to educate someone about those things when you're dealing with your own trauma yourself and trying to pack some of these things yourself. I'm hoping to have a future video where I speak specifically about that because I do think it's an issue for Black Americans that move abroad and especially to Mexico, that a lot of us come here and we think just coming is going to fix the things, and it's not. You're just going to bring them with you. And in a lot of ways, they will be bigger if you don't deal with them, right? Because you're expecting everything that happens to you, think it's because of what you look like. And most of the time it's not. But I think that that's a big issue for me. The biggest issue to me for dating, and you touched a little bit on it, Lena, is an economic disparity for me. Because like you, I like to travel and I like long distance relationships. The last serious relationship I was in, and we're still really good friends, was long distance. And it worked for as long as it did because he didn't care. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't a problem for us that I lived in a different city and he lived in a different city. And not every man can deal with that and then consider living in a different country. That's even a bigger thing, right? But for me, that's less of an issue because I'm not really looking for something long-term. What's bigger for me is economic disparities, especially in Mexico. And where you have either people who are very wealthy or people who are lower middle income, but not a lot of upper middle income. right? There's a big, there's a, it's not like in the US, even though that's changing in the US as well, right? So as an American, I have to be really sensitive to the fact that the income differences are huge, right? And so I can pick up and go to a Mexican town for the weekend, but another a person I'm dating who's Mexican might not be able to do that, right? And Mexican men are very, very, how should I say? I find Latin men, generally speaking, and Italians also, who are very similar to Latin. They're very macho. They're very proud. They don't want you to pay
That's
for
what
them.
that's what I thought you
They
were going
don't
to
want
say.
you to pay for them to do
exactly.
anything. All right. And so you have to be really sensitive to that. So, you know, when you say, where do you want to meet for a drink? I have to think about, where do I want to meet? Because I can probably have a drink anywhere, right? But he might not be able to. So I have to think about, like, where am I going to tell this person to meet me for a drink? Where am I going to, if they say, where do you want to go? Where am I going to, you know, so a lot of times I let them pick. Exactly. And then I just meet them there.
I prefer for them to pick anyway.
I know wherever they meet is going to be fine. And it's probably going to be somewhere I've never been, which is going to be even better, right? So I think that that is something that you have to be sensitive to, especially when you're living here. And then I also do not want to feel fetishized. So if someone starts making me feel like, if they're too pressed to meet me, they're like telling me I'm beautiful 15 times a day. Maybe other people like that. To me, it starts to feel kind of weird. I'm like, especially if you've never met me, I just talk to me like I'm a normal person. And I have experienced that in Mexico. It's like they've never been with a Black woman before and they can't wait. And then the third thing is the language thing for me, because I'm trying to learn Spanish and it's hard. I'm actually literally taking lessons, doing lessons every morning. But it is something that you have to also manage, right? Is that you're going to meet, there are lots of very, very attractive men here, but you need to speak Spanish, right? And if you want to meet men that might actually be on the same economic level as you, you got to speak Spanish here. Yeah. So I think it's one of the things that the biggest challenge actually for me in dating now is the language thing. And so I'm working really hard on it, but they're really cool men here. I mean, most of the men I've met here have been really fun, really interesting, really well knowledgeable about the world, even in ways that I am. I mean, last weekend I had a conversation with this guy about the Ukraine-Russia situation and economic, you know, American foreign policy and all of this stuff. And I loved it because I haven't had that even with an American.
Stimulation. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But he was very well versed in all these things. And I used to work in international development. So it was really cool to like talk to someone who knew where Eastern Europe was and knew the countries that I was talking about, you know, because I've actually been to Ukraine and talking about what was happening and why it was happening. So I think it's important for us. A lot of people here are very well educated, even the ones that are not making a lot of money. They've gone to university and so on. But I think when you're dating, you just have to be sensitive to that is a thing, that, you know, there is a very big difference in terms of monetary exchange and all those things. And so when you're dating, you have to really keep that in mind, I think, for me anyway.
Yeah, I had that experience in terms of the economic thing because he was emphatic when the bill came that he was going to pay for it. And I think he thought I was going for my wallet or something, which I wasn't. But I'm like, you know, but he was emphatic and like, no, he was like trying to make sure that I understood that he was going to pay for it. So that part about them having pride, very much so, regardless of their status, you know, they still have this pride. But I think one of the challenges that I've seen here for myself is the transient part. It's like, okay, I'm like you, and I'm not looking to get married. I'm just looking to, you know, enjoy myself, have some companionship from time to time. But one of the gentlemen, you know, he just kind of like dropped off the face of the earth. And then I was walking one day and I heard somebody call my name. Who knows me in Mexico, right? And it was him. He's actually a police officer. And so he patrols around Playa. I'm in Playa too. And so from time to time, I'll see him and he'll holler at me. And then I'll get a random text and he's like, I really think we can have a wonderful time together. But it's weird because it's like, on the one hand, he's saying he wants to spend time, but on the other hand, it's like, okay, so there's not this continuous communication for that to happen. And then he works a lot. He told me he works a lot.
Girl, that man,
you know, and I
probably got a
understand that,
wife.
especially.
I hate to say it, but he probably got a wife or girlfriend.
You know,
listen, that's the one thing I have found, that the men here got a lot of stuff happening. They are professional jugglers. They are professional jugglers. I bet you they are. Women.
Yeah. We talked about that on our date. You know, he claims that he's not married. He had 2 sons or whatever. So I don't know. But the other challenge is walking the line between, like, okay, what do you think I am? Because I think I had a conversation with a gentleman here. It wasn't a date. We were just conversing, and he was saying that a lot of the Mexican men think that the American women are loose. And so I've had I had a man, like, I don't know what he thought. I guess he thought, I don't know, but he basically was flirting for me from his car, well, his huge van, and he was motioning like we could go in the back of his van, like, and do what? So it was like, my friendliness or just eye contact could be misconstrued. So I'm having to be careful about, or really find out, what exactly do you think? And even the one date, the date that I had with the police officer, the lack of communication, we could have lost something in translation, but I understood him to say that he was getting ready to move into this home or whatever, so that it could be really nice so that I could come over to his home. And I'm thinking it's going to be a long time before I go up into your house. So, and I let him know, I said, just, you need to realize that it would be a while before I came to your home, because I don't roll like that. I don't know.
There's some acceleration that happens, I think, with Latin American men, and maybe this is also true of Latin American women. When they're dating, things seem like they move
very fast,
really
faster than what we're
apparently, because I'm like,
so fast.
I think that's very true. And I feel like in the beginning, when I just got here, it really like took me aback, because in the States, they take forever in a day to finally take you out somewhere, because they juggling like 6-7 other people, just in my experience. But but here it's like, can I take you out tomorrow?
Right.
Can we meet tomorrow for drinks? Can we meet? And I'm like, whoa, because you're not used to that. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I'm definitely, cool I like it. Right.
Yeah. Like, yes, I love the initiative. I prefer for a man to ask me out right away than us spending a lot of time chatting on the phone. But they try to get you like back to their house quickly, or, and I'm just like,
I had a friend here, and you know what? Right away, the guy started hitting on her. And that's exactly, he kept saying, come on, let's go to my house. Let's go to my house to her. This was in 24 hours. Let's go to my,
Yeah. I'm like, we went out, have drinks and talk.
I think it's a part of their culture.
And nobody's coming to my house.
But I think it's a part of the culture. They're just, so full of enjoyment and celebration. And it falls into that. Like, hey, let's have a good time. That's what it is. It's like, because this guy was a party waiting to happen, and you could just step into his party at any time. You could step in there. And so neither one of us were trying to step in. He's like, come over and do, So I think it's a part of their culture. It's like, hey, yeah, let's have a good time. And they want to pull you into that good time.
We also need to remember that men are men no matter where you go. And if they gonna make a play for the cookie, okay? They just are. And so let's not pretend, because they are. Right. So
they know what's going on.
Men, when I meet them here, I fall back on, I'm American, and we're very direct, because I'm very direct. And that is also cultural difference.
Yes. And, a huge difference.
Mexicans especially are not direct. They're very polite. They're extremely polite. They emphasize politeness in their culture. And so the way that they even say no to something is different. Like, they don't like to directly say no to something, especially if they don't want to do something. They
They
won't
use a
say
lot
no.
of flowery
They use a
language.
They'll
lot of
start
like
talking
say
about
all these
everything.
things,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
almost never
An
actually say no.
explanation.
So you were
An
sitting there trying to
explanation.
figure out, okay, is the answer no or is it yes or what we doing or whatever. However, if they want to do something, they're all into it, right? And so the one thing I feel like here is I never have to question whether a man is interested in me or not. If they're interested, I know. When they stop being
Right
interested,
away.
I know. You know what I'm saying? For whatever reason, I know, right? Whilst a lot of times when you're dating in the US, you're in constantly in this will we, won't we, is he not? That does not really exist
Right.
here. I also haven't existed in other places that I've dated. So I do feel like it is something that's culturally I'm still trying to get used to, but definitely dating while I'm in Mexico, I have found that they are more, it really is, you're interesting. I'd like to get to know you. Let's go out tomorrow. Or let's go out. Or what are you doing tonight?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, tonight? Wait a minute. And it's not, I mean, that's just how they are here. And so you have to, if you're not comfortable, just pace things the way it is for you and be like, well, I can't, because my thing is, you know, I almost never will commit to going out the next day or the same day. Cause I'm like, I got more questions. You talking about tomorrow. I got these here questions that I gotta ask you and things that I have to ascertain before I even go out with you, because safety is a very big deal to me. So
okay.
And I don't want nobody's crazy girlfriend or wife showing up at the coffee.
Right.
I'm like, I got questions before we go anywhere, right? But that to me is a difference. I wouldn't call it a challenge, but it's definitely like a difference in terms of dating here. I've also found that in other places as well, that men are more, especially since they know you're visiting, it's like, when are you getting here? We're gonna go do this. Have you been here? Have you seen this? Have you done this? Right? It's very different than, and I'm not saying it's better or worse, but it's different. And it's something I've had to adjust to. But the overarching thing that I've learned, and I learned this even before I went to the States, is that interested men act interested. And so I have found that American women have been sold, especially Black women have sold a bill of goods, that we got to do all this stuff. You ain't got to do nothing. You don't have to do anything. And if people don't remember anything else I say here, please remember this. You don't have to do anything. Interested men act interested. Right.
You know, Toni,
Amen.
Toni, when you mentioned earlier about the gentleman wanting you to not pick up the check, and you know, you saying that you weren't going to do that anyway, it had me thinking about how dating here, I just sit back. And I let them handle it. We've been so, like you said, Emily, we've been so brainwashed to think that we have to go 50-50 and all this. So dating here
because people do go 50-50, and and the women are taking care of the men. I had a conversation yesterday, and
they sure are.
This guy,
they sure are.
You know,
in the United States, especially us.
Yeah, the expectation of somebody taking care of men are some of these. I'm not talking about. I'm not on that team just bad mouthing Black men. That's not who I am. But you've got a culture for a while now where you've got women taking care of men. It's okay for them. They're desperate, or having any kind of man is better than no man at all. And they're taking care of him. They're paying his bills. They're paying child support for him. I've seen it.
Oh, you know, that's the culture we live in. We've all seen it. And
doing everything. We're doing everything.
Or form, many of us have done it when we were younger and didn't know any better, right? And so
I didn't go
emotionally, whether you're emotionally taking care of somebody who has their issues that they should go off and sort out, and you there hanging in there trying to help fix them.
You gonna fix it.
Or you're financially supporting somebody. I'm done with all of that. So I don't do any of that now. But I really feel like I'm very much about prioritizing joy, self-care, and that I'm trying to do, as Stephanie Perry says, as little as possible. So I'm not trying to do no work, especially when it comes to a relationship, because I think things should happen organically. And like I said, I feel that interested men act interested. And so men who are interested and want to spend time with you, they're going to do whatever they need to do to make that happen.
That's
if they got to drive an hour to come see you, they're going to do it. I'm a witness. If they got to get on a plane, they're going to do that too. So their level of interest is indicated by what they're willing to do. And so if they're not willing to do any of those things, don't even bother. Just move on to the next one. Because as I tell my younger family members. Men are like buses. There's always another one coming. And your job is to just decide which is the good bus for you to get on, which is the bad bus. And if you get on the bad bus, to get off the bad bus
Get off as
possible,
soon as you
right?
can.
But it's not your job to be doing a whole lot of work. And so the minute you start doing emotional or mental gymnastics about trying to figure out whether a man is interested in you or wants to be with you, the answer is no, he does not.
Yeah. But you know, those are that
even that question is, that the answer is no, he does not.
Exactly.
That's work. That is work that I have personally had to shed myself, rid myself of this thinking, you know, because we've been indoctrinated into it in the US. It has been work for me to go out with someone and just sit there when the bill comes and they pay for it. And I just say, thank you for dinner.
Exactly.
You know,
just sit there and be flirty. It was a big shift for me too. It was a big shift for me too, because I was so used to doing everything for myself. I've always done everything. I raised my son by myself. I've done all of those things by myself. And so it's a big difference to be here, especially, and you go out with someone and they just want to spend time with you and they're not interested in, you know, they're not pushy. I have not found the men here to be particularly pushy either. Same. And not always. For the most, like in the getting to know you part and online, they can be. But in person, I have not found most of them to be pushy, right? So, but they spend time with you and there's no question about who's going to pay. I've never had to even question who's going to pay, which is why, as I said earlier, I always try to be sensitive. Where we go and what we do, because I know that they're going to want to pay and I don't offer to pay for anything. I stopped doing that in America. I'm like, when the check comes, you may be back there washing dishes if you're not prepared to pay. Because I'm not offering to pay for anything, right? But I had to come to that for myself. Like Lena said, you have to do the work to realize what your value is, because we have been taught that we're supposed to protect Black men at all costs. And there's nothing, I love Black men and I want the best for them, but guess what? I love me more and I want the best for me, especially when it comes to my personal relationships. And I'm not willing to sacrifice my emotional health anymore in the name of saying that I'm in a relationship. I'm the best relationship you will ever have in your life is the one you have
with yourself.
The one you have with yourself.
With yourself.
You can't do that right, you ain't gonna be able to do no other relationship right. So you need to work on yourself and the rest will fall into place. Lena, the man that is going to be with you, who will be a very lucky man, is going to find you wherever you are. And he's going to be willing to move, fly, take a bus, get on a train, do whatever he needs to do, right? And so we have to be patient and just be the best, you know, live the best version of ourselves rather than feeling like we have to do all these acrobatics and gymnastics. So my last question to you guys is, what is something that you have learned about yourself as a result of dating solo abroad as a Black woman?
Ooh, that's a good question. Toni?
I had thought about something similar to this. Looking at the trick is, can I remember what I was thinking about in terms of that? Repeat the question.
What is something you've learned about yourself as a result of dating solo and living abroad? I mean, living abroad, dating while living abroad, and traveling solo. What's something you've learned about yourself?
What is it? I know I should have wrote this down.
Well, I'll say one of the things I learned about myself is that I'm incredibly open-minded. I like men, you know. It doesn't matter where they're from, what their background is, their ethnic background, their heritage. If the vibe is good and we're having a good time, I'm just open to who they are as an individual. So that's one of the things I learned about myself. And I have been traveling and dating while traveling for over a decade now. So
that's awesome. Yeah. Toni?
I know what it is now. And I had forgot. I was trying to pull it back. And that is, I'm one of those people, I was like married for many years and I've been divorced for many years. About as long as I've been divorced, I was married like 16 years, right? And my mindset has always been to be in a relationship as opposed to just dating here and dating there. And I'm learning that it works for me to date here. It feels really freeing that I don't have to have a relationship or think about going out with somebody and think about to hook up permanently or have a marriage. That's huge. That is huge for me because I've always been like, one man, and everything's got to be this big old relationship. But when I got to Mexico, it just kind of fell by the wayside, and it's very freeing to be able to meet other men and go out and I was really like proud of myself because when I went out with one of the young men, I mean, I wasn't emotionally, I wasn't like, oh, I hope he calls and when is it was none of that. And I had to stop. I said, wow, you've really grown, Toni. I said this to myself because I know that I'm the type that, I hope he calls again. And none of that. I had a great time. If he calls, great. If he don't, great. And someone asked me, well, have you heard from so-and-so? I'm like, no, I'm not even thinking about whether he calls or not. I mean, I'm just that so like free that I'm not caring if they call or if they not, so that's huge. I've really seen that growth, I call it, in myself. Because I used to always be, if we go out,
we together. We together now.
We together. I want to get, I don't, yeah, that whole, and it's none of that anymore. I'm just like enjoying my life and myself and whoever comes into it, whoever I allow to come into it. So that is huge. And I really, that was really a light bulb that came on since I've been here. So.
Well, for me, I would say it's the last thing I said, which is that what I learned truly is that the best relationship you can ever have with yourself is with you, right? The best relationship you'll ever be in is the one that you have with yourself. And making the decision to move to Mexico and making the decision to prioritize, since I've been in Mexico, the things that make me happy has confirmed that for me. And so one of the things that I've learned is that dating in and of itself is fun. It doesn't have to be connected to romance or sex or anything. Going out and meeting somebody. Now, it's great if those things come too, but going out and just having opportunity to meet different people, get to know new people and learn, make friends.
Yeah, can I say something something you mentioned about it doesn't have to be all romance. And I think this was impressive to me. The police officer that I was dating, he had invited me on the Day of the Dead. They're having all the celebrations all around Playa. I really wasn't going to do anything, but he had asked me, he texted me and he says, hey, why don't you, they're having a celebration, and he gave me the address and everything. And he said, I would like for you to see my culture, and maybe sometime I could learn more about your culture. I went just because I thought, wow, that's like nothing romantic or, it's bigger than us. It's like he was talking about his culture and he wanted to share that with me. He got some points just for that. I thought, wow, it's bigger. And I think that comes with their culture too, because they're so very proud of it, that he wanted to share that part of himself with me by inviting me to that event.
Didn't you have a ball?
It was
one of the
amazing.
best times I've had since I've been in Mexico. Yeah. One of the best times I've had since I've been in Mexico has been the Day of the Dead that I did here in San Miguel, which was just amazing. So that's really cool that you got to do it with someone. Because I think it would have been even more amazing if I had gotten to do it with someone local, right? Which hopefully this year that will be the case. But, because I will intentionally do what I need to do to make that happen. But I think that that's one of the cool things about deciding to date people that are local. And I'm not saying that I would never go out with people that are not, that are American or whatever, but it's not my preference. I really prefer to meet people everywhere I go who are from that country, that I can talk to them and get to know about where they're from and the country itself through their eyes, and the best food and the best things and the best beaches and all those kinds of things to go to. And I think it helps you also learn about yourself. And I think not attaching romance and other things to it for me has actually made dating more enjoyable for me since I moved, because I go into it as by the end of the night, I'm going to make a new friend. Unless this person is a complete jerk, I'm going to make a new friend. And that's all that, and that's fine, because having good friends is a very, very important thing, especially in a foreign country. So if it turns into something more than that, that's great. If we meet and our eyes lock and it turns, and the music starts playing in your head or whatever, that's wonderful. But it's okay if that doesn't happen. And I feel like
it's okay.
We have to be okay with that as women, that everything doesn't have to be, every man doesn't have to be the greatest love of your life. Everything is not forever. Right. I believe most things are not forever, but they're there for you to learn something about yourself and about the world. And so it's okay to just go out on a date and meet somebody and have a good time, and then say thank you, and then say thank you so much and go home.
And then, like also Lena said, the whole romance thing too, though. It's like Lena, you had mentioned that it was, I had the best date I had in years. I got wined and dined, and then he's like, let's go to the beach. We went to the beach. I saw a falling star, and you know what? He said something wonderful. How about this? Homeboy said, I said, did you see that falling star? You know what he said? He said, no, I was looking at you.
All right now. But you know what? But I want to throw this out also before we wrap up, is that it is also okay to go out on a date, meet a man, and take him home and have a wonderful time, and then say thank you and go on with your life. I just want to say that. I want to make that clear. That's okay too, because I'm not into all this puritanical BS. We're grown women. You do what you want to do, and be safe and be thoughtful and do what you can emotionally handle. Yeah. And if you know that you're looking for a husband or a boyfriend or something serious, then you got to proceed in that manner, because men understand requirements, right? And so you have to tell them from the beginning, what you want. Put it in your profile. Because one of the things I ask men is, you were probably busy looking at the picture and my boobs. Did you read my profile?
Did you
read my profile? And after you finish reading my profile, come back and talk to me. And sometimes they don't come back after they read my profile, but many times they do. But I'm like, I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want you to waste my time. And I have read your profile. So have you read mine? Right. And I think, and you have to be okay with doing things like that, so that you're not going to end up on a date with somebody who has no interest in you, knows nothing but that you look pretty in a picture. And so for me, especially dealing with Tinder, I do that a lot, because I'm like, I got a limited amount of time to be going out on dates. I'm not trying to go out on a date with anybody that I don't think at least I'll enjoy their company, right? Right. So you've got to also take the agency. As women, a lot of times this world treats us as if we have no agency, but we do. And decide who you want to spend time with and what is it that you want out of it, and proceed with your dating, whether it's abroad, solo trip, or in wherever you are, by putting yourself first and putting, what you want out of the experience above everything else. And don't be afraid to walk away from the jump if it's not what you want. Don't waste your time.
Even though I desire a long-term relationship, I use my intuition. When a man is not long-term relationship material, and they will just be good for the moment. But like you said, Anne-Marie, we deserve to have the things that we want. I do not believe in a woman going a long time without getting hers. You feel me? So you got to do what you got to do.
It's not good for your health, ladies. It's not good for your health. All this stuff I see on social media talking about, I've been celibate for 2 years. I'm like, you have my deepest condolences, sis. My deepest condolences, sis. Okay? I mean, to each his own. But I don't think it's good.
It's not for me.
That's all I'm saying. It's not good for my health. It's not good for my health. Let me not speak for anybody else. It's not good for my health. So I just am like, but everyone's got to do the things that make them happy. That's what I'm very big on. And don't deny yourself things because society says you can't have it, or some man on the internet said that you wouldn't be a good catch if you did it, and all these kinds of things. We as women, and especially as Black women, need to understand that we deserve all the things. Yes. All the happy things, all the good things, and that we have a responsibility to go out there and get those things, and not wait for anybody to give us permission to live the life that we want to live.
I have never subscribed to the societal standards that are placed on us with regard to love and sex and how relationships should look and all of that. So yeah.
So I think we lost Toni, but we're gonna wrap up. Thank you guys, and thanks to Toni who dropped off for a minute. Thank you, Lena, for doing this chat with me. I hope that the people who watch it will get some valuable tidbits about dating.
Thank you for having me.
And traveling. We all highly recommend it. So if you're traveling solo, you're living abroad, get out there and date. Go out, put yourself out there, get on Tinder, have some fun. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.